Hey there, gamer. Welcome to the video. I go by Kublizee or Kublizee. Most often just Kubz here on the internet. And I like to make videos. So this is a video, and I'm glad that you're here. And I'm going to try something a little bit different, something kind of new, and see how it goes. It might fail miserably. It might also be a really good and fun, enjoyable time for us. So thanks for being here once again. I appreciate you, and one of the things that I want to say before too many people click off the video is that existing can be hard sometimes, but I'm glad that you exist, and as long as you continue to exist, there are endless possibilities for what you can make of your life. And so keep going, keep pushing. Even when things get tough, that's when we really kind of figure out how strong and resilient we actually can be. So it may not feel like it in the moment, but there's usually a positive outcome to some of the challenges that we face, and I'm just proud of you for still being here. I like to try to spread a positive message here on this channel, just in general, and I think that has a little bit to do with like what I want to do with my life, and in a big way, I think I've noticed, especially, I mean, gosh, give yourself a pat on the back if you haven't already, just for making it through COVID and the pandemic that we went through a couple years ago now, because that was definitely a very trying time for many of us. But it seems like there's, especially on the internet, it seems like there's a lot of like negativity, and like even in the news, like if you watch the news, it's like we talk about all of the negative things and all the bad things that have happened, but we don't really like spread positivity and hope and optimism and things like that. So I figure like one of the few things that I can control is my little corner of the internet here on YouTube, and so I try my best to kind of spread a positive message and encourage others, and just appreciate your presence being here, appreciate your differences, appreciate who you are, as a person. And so again, thanks for being here, even if you don't stay for this very long video that I've got put together for us. I appreciate your presence, and thank you. So one of my very first invasion videos, it's probably about a year old now actually, was a video that I did. It was called Sunday Night Invasions, and I had sat down on a Sunday night, of course, naturally, and did some invasions. And at the time, it was we didn't have access to invading on the whole map. You had to invade where you were. So I was here in Lanedale, the royal capital, and I was doing some invasions. And it was like it was one of those nights where like things were just kind of clicking really well and things were feeling good for me. And I think I was really kind of starting to like get into a flow as an invader. And I was like, you know what? I would like to put those clips together and just publish that video on my channel. And I didn't have any audio commentary with it. It was just the invasions that had happened that evening. And so I figured like maybe why not like revisit that concept and do a Sunday night invasion video. And so I was invading on a Sunday night very recently with my character Moundmaker Urza. And Urza uses the trick mirror so that I can look like a cooperator. And part of that is just so that I don't look like a standard invader, but it's also the other larger part is so that I can kind of let the party dictate the experience in a big way, It's like this character has invaded your world, and what are you gonna do about it? You know, what do you think you should do about it? Am I a threat? Am I somebody that you need to get rid of as soon as possible? Even though I'm not necessarily posing myself as a threat, I can totally understand, you know, the mistrust that you might have of an invader coming into your world, especially disguised as somebody who's going to help you. And so I like to kind of like I said, let the party dictate the experience. And so if they want to fight me, then they can fight me. If they're kind of, you know, a little bit more friendly, then maybe we'll have a friendly encounter. Maybe I'll turn on them at some point, or maybe I'll just decide like, hey, I've got to fight these guys because that's what seems like I want to do, whatever it might be. So just kind of a different mentality and mindset to the invasion experience that I have when I play as this character, but very much so in like a laid back and relaxed and kind of chill mindset. I'm not try-harding when I play as this character. I've got a character, Cousin Coldblood, who I think I'll have a video out for him pretty soon. I've done a couple of videos with that character already on the channel, so you can check those out if you'd like to. But that character is level 60, and they've got plus 12 and plus 5 weapons. And in a lot of the invasions that I get into with that character, I'm kind of like pushed to try hard or like perform at like my most optimal as an invader, just because of some of like the level advantages that phantoms can have when you're fighting in that level range. It's pretty gnarly. I mean, against the host it's not too bad, but like the disparity between over leveled password summon phantoms and a level 60 character at that particular weapon range is kind of tough sometimes. So sometimes I'll find myself kind of, you know, trying harder than I would with other characters. And so with Urza, I can kind of come in and chill out and take a little bit of a break. This upset me a little bit, actually, to be honest. I thought that we were having a nice little engagement there. The host was like, hey, I'm going to turn on my trick mirror, and so all 4 of us were orange at one point. And then he kind of gestured like, hey, you should fight this guy. So I started fighting that guy. And then the other phantom, I think, got a little bit bored or a little bit jealous that they weren't involved. And so they started kind of getting in on things and healing the guy I was fighting and whatnot. And so to get the point down at the end of that was a little bit discouraging. But, you know, it is what it is, right? Like, it's just a gesture in a video game. And then I was able to invade the same group again a little bit later. And I realized that the guy who pointed down at me wasn't there. So apparently another invader had come in and had killed him. So, I mean, sometimes what goes around comes around, but that's not really like the message of the video here. I think it's really just kind of more of like, let's chill out together and try to enjoy our time as we watch these invasion clips in the background, and I'm just going to talk about some things. So I'm using the brick hammer in pretty much all of these invasions. I kind of sat down that evening and I was like, all right, what's a weapon that I haven't really messed with before, and I haven't really used great hammers very much. And so I was like, all right, I've got this brick hammer that's leveled up. Moundmaker Urza is level 88 with plus 15 weapons and plus 6 somber weapons. So this is a plus 15 brick hammer, and I was like, you know what, if I put Cragblade on this brick hammer, that might be kind of cool, because I was hoping that it would blend in a little bit more. When I use the Cragblade, you can kind of see the rock that's been added to the weapon. It's not like, it doesn't take on the orange color that the talisman I'm using gives my character, but it still looks cool nonetheless, and it just kind of adds to the physical damage that I'm using, because this is a strength build. And so adding that physical damage rather than getting like an elemental damage involved means that it's just going to improve my overall damage, and then I can use this really to like just break through shields and things like that. So I was having a lot of fun with it. And then I also had a I think it's called the Great Knife maybe. It's like the curved one, and it's got like a little bit of an innate bleed effect. And when I have that on my character in the offhand, but I'm two-handing my hammer. It looks like part of like the attire that I'm wearing. I have on the Ronin attire, and so it just kind of blends in really well, and it has this really cool look to it. So I was like, that's kind of cool because it like almost disguises the fact that I'm even offhanding a knife, and then I can pull that out if I need to, and they might not necessarily even like, oh crap, where did that come from? And so that was kind of fun as well. So maybe that'll kind of show up at some point throughout these invasion clips. And so yeah, so just having a good time, enjoying myself, doing some invasions and not taking things too seriously. Then I definitely encourage you to, when possible, you know, kind of come into your invasions with that same similar mindset. Like, we're just gamers trying to have fun playing a video game together. And I know that sometimes it's difficult when you come into an invasion and like the host and their phantoms are really kind of aggressive. Like they're just there to gank you, and that's all that they want to do because that's like their version of having fun. And I understand that that might not be as fun for us as the invader in those moments, but there are some good invasions to be had throughout the lands between. And so, you know, sometimes it's just a little bit more about our own mindset than it is about the particular circumstances that we find ourselves in. So here we've got a co-invader who's come in to, you know, to take on the host. So they're using the Taunter's Tongue. I wouldn't have expected that based on the first invasion that I had with this party. But that was kind of cool. So I got a co-invader, and we've taken out the other phantom, I'm pretty sure, by this point. That's what it looks like, at least. If there is a phantom, I don't know where they've been for a little while. But so, you know, I'm swinging around this big hammer, and it's like, you know what, I don't want to bonk my teammate because that might do some damage to them that they can't necessarily, you know, take or cause them to use some resources. So here I did switch over to that knife that I was offhanding, like I mentioned, and just trying to kind of like use the tools that I have. It looks like I'm going to switch over to, yeah, I did switch over to an Uchi Katana here, just so that I'd have something that, again, wasn't like that big old hammer, but that I could try to chase down the enemy with. And I had been using the Uchi Katana with a Barbaric Roar. I kind of featured that in a video recently, the Ninja Turtle video. And I really enjoyed that. I think that it like really kind of takes a weapon that has a sort of predictable moveset, and then you use the Barbaric Roar, and it's like, okay, now I've got like this combination of blows that my character can dish out, and I thought that was really kind of cool. I don't see that combination very often, like using Barbaric Roar on a katana. So definitely check that out if you're looking for some new weapon in Ash of War to kind of mix things up. And yeah, so one of the things that I wanted to, I guess, ramble about in this video, because I haven't gotten to do so in any of the content that I've made for Elden Ring recently, was just kind of talk about my first experience like playing through the game, like my very first playthrough. And hopefully you yourself had a really like amazing experience on your first playthrough. And I know that so like I'm a huge proponent for like play the game how you want to play the game. So if you want to go through your first playthrough playing it co-op with some friends and things like that, like, do you, gamer? I'm not gonna sit here and say that you're doing it wrong, but there was like such a beautiful part of my first playthrough was that it was just me and the lands between, and just figuring things out for myself. And like by the end of the journey, I felt like I had like taken on that mantle of Elden Lord. It's like my character had grown so much and had experienced so much and had all these wonderful, impactful moments. And that was like really cool and really rewarding for me, especially at the time. I was, so I recently finished up grad school. And so when Elden Ring released, it was like maybe 10 days before my spring break at the time. And so I was like, you know what, I know if I buy this game when it releases, that I'm I'm gonna get distracted from my school stuff that I need to finish up before spring break. So I waited and I held off until it was like the night before spring break started, and that's when I purchased Elden Ring and did the download. So pretty much my whole spring break was just me and Elden Ring having a great time, and so that allowed me to really kind of sink my teeth into the game, and not feel too guilty about it. But I did a blind playthrough, which is like, because you only have that opportunity once in a big way. I mean, once you've played through the game and you've experienced some of the bosses, then it's not, you can't like experience that in a perfectly fresh sense. And I also did my playthrough as a wretch, and so I started the game with no clothes and nothing but a big old club. And so like the combination of those two things, of not using any sort of guides or walkthroughs and just playing in a way where it was like every piece of gear I was interested in figuring out, does this fit into my build at all? Is this useful? Am I going to use this? Different things like that was just like such a cool thing to have experienced. And so I'll always have like this special place in my heart and in my memories of my first playthrough with Elden Ring. But there were some things that happened during my first playthrough that were like, they almost seem like wholly unique to my experience. I'm sure that other people have experienced them as well, but they were so like unexpected and so kind of different that it's like I wanted to kind of I guess in a big way for my own self, kind of like get that out there so that I can look back at this video someday and go, oh man, that was really kind of cool. So one of the things that early on in my playthrough was just this crazy theory that I had, basically because I didn't read something properly. So you go to Raya Lucaria and you face off against the Red Wolf of Radagon. So at the time, I read that name as Red Wolf Radagon, and I had heard of Radagon in like throughout the lore and throughout the game. I think probably also from meeting Muriel, who is the Turtle Pope, having met Muriel, and he mentions like Radagon. And so when I got there, it was like, oh, okay, so I'm coming here to take on Queen Renala, but I've just fought the Red Wolf Radagon. So I was thinking, like, this Red Wolf is Renala's husband, right? Like, that's what my brain had put together. And that was reinforced by the fact that I had met Blythe, and Blythe and Ronnie had said that they were like step siblings, right? So I'm thinking that Radagon was Blythe's father, and he was a wolf, and that's why Blythe was also a wolf, right? So crazy kind of theory, right? And that Radagon, Red Wolf Radagon, was protecting Renala at Raya Lucaria. And so that just kind of, that made sense to me, right? And so like, I'm like, oh my goodness. So like one of the very first bosses that I encountered at the Groveside Cave in Limgrave is the Beastman of Pharaoh Mazula, right? And we don't necessarily learn anything more or see or hear anything more even about Pharaoh Mazula until much, much later in the game. But that name had kind of stuck with me, and then the concept of a Beastman. So it's like, okay, so it's totally kind of plausible that like that beasts and animals could have relationships with humans, I guess, in this world. And we've got Muriel, the Turtle Pope, and we've got Blythe, who's like a half wolf, half person. And so this crazy kind of theory starts to kind of build up and expand. And so then I get to Volcano Manor, and I find out that that Raya is a snake person. And so when I learned that Raya was a snake person, I kind of pieced together that like, okay, so like Rykard is probably a snake dude, right? not necessarily knowing the full extent of the lore between Rykard, but having like this idea in my mind that like, okay, so when I go to take on this boss, like he's gonna be some kind of a snake guy. And so that was really cool that like that had kind of come true when I got to that fight. Sorry for some of the sniffles. The allergies have been kind of bad this summer. Things have been all over the place weather-wise and pollen-wise, so hopefully that's not too distracting. But yeah, so then that little bit is reinforced by the fact that like I get into the boss room and he was a snake person. And so now I'm thinking like, okay, so like there are these like animals or like, you know, characters that are hybrids of human and animal or whatever it might be. So what else could be there? And so one of the items that I found was the Newman rune, right? So when you're down in the, I'm not sure if it's the Siofra or the other river. There's one of them that you can go down to. It might even be more towards Deeproot Basin. It's probably Deeproot Basin, and or the Deeproot Depths, whatever that area is, kind of where Godwin's body is at, right? And I'll kind of get to that in a minute too. But when you're down there, when you read the description of the Newman rune, it kind of says that like this is a rune of a race known as the Newman, and you get that from defeating one of these giant ants. It's like a giant ant who's like sitting on top of like a kind of like an egg sac, and when you pop the egg sac, it drops this Newman rune. And so then I was like, oh my goodness, I've heard that Marika herself is a Newman, like a member of the Newman race, and I just got this Newman rune from killing this giant ant. Is Marika a giant ant, right? Like how crazy would that have been? Because I have this whole theory crafted in my head that like that there's animals and people are like kind of commingling and whatnot. So that was really kind of interesting and like a fun little, you know, theory that I had throughout my first playthrough. Obviously now I know that most of that is incorrect, if not all of it is incorrect. And obviously I know that like the red wolf of Radagon was really probably just like Radagon's pet wolf, you know? And so, but still at the time it was like this really kind of cool and interesting thing that I was piecing together, like these puzzle pieces that I was being given. I was trying to form this picture, and you know, it wasn't necessarily perfectly accurate, but that was the picture that I was getting from the story that I was being fed. And so that was really kind of cool and interesting. Another thing was that I thought that once I got into Leyendell, the royal capital, that was going to be kind of like close to the end of the game, because we're getting to the Erd Tree. And so I held off on entering and visiting the capital for like as long as I possibly could. I went and did so many other things, and so I had done all of Ranni's quest, and I had visited the Carrion study hall earlier on in my playthrough. So when she gave me the inverted tower key or whatever it is, it's like an hourglass that flips the tower over, I was like, oh my goodness, like I know exactly where this item goes, where I'm supposed to put this. So let me go do that really quickly before I continue this little quest line with Ranni. And so I had gotten the curse mark of death, I think it's called. When you get to the top of the tower, you get the Stargazer's heirloom, I think, and then you also get the curse mark of death. And so I was like, oh my gosh, so like I don't know what this is for exactly, but I've got this new item. So I continue Ranni's quest line, and I do all of that, and then I think it was when I went down into the sewers. No, that wouldn't make sense. There's some way that you can get into Deeproot Basin or Deeproot Depths. There's like an alternate entrance to get there, okay? rather than taking the coffin to get up there. I'm pretty sure that there's an alternate entrance, but I might be mistaken about that. It might be that I kind of discovered that afterwards, after I had gone into Lanedale. That would probably make more sense. So I probably took the coffin up to get to Deeproot Depths, and then I explored that whole area, and I got to where Fia was sitting at Godwyn's corpse, right? And so then seeing Godwyn's corpse, it's like, what the heck? Like, was Godwyn a fish? Like, was Godwyn some kind of giant goldfish, right? Because I've got this crazy theory building in my mind, and so you take on Fia's champions, and then you get put into the dream, and you can take on the Lich Dragon. I think his name's 40 Sacks or something like that. So I take on the Lich Dragon, and then I talk to Fia afterwards, and she's basically like, if you have the other half of this curse mark of death, then I can somehow basically continue Godwyn's bloodline. Kind of some weird stuff happened in there for sure. Because like what I know now is that Godwyn is dead in spirit, but that his body never died. And so knowing that like his body is kind of alive but lifeless, like she's using his body in order to have a child. So that's kind of weird, right? But you don't really necessarily piece that together entirely at the time. I thought that like somehow she's going to actually like bring Godwyn back or something like this. But either way, what she does is she basically, once she mends the curse mark of death or whatever it is, like she puts the two halves together, she actually sends you into Leyendell. So she can send you to the royal capital. And so in my first playthrough, I didn't get into Leyendell by killing the Draconic Tree Sentinel. I got into Leyendell because I had done Fia's quest line, and she teleported me there. And so like I didn't even realize that there's like this boss that's like blocking the way to the entrance, and that you needed these like 2 runes to get in or anything like that, because I was just so like kind of focused on all of the other like story elements that I was out there doing, the different side quests and things like that, and just exploring the awesome world that we have. So that was really kind of cool. And it's like knowing that now, it's like, wow, that was such a convoluted way to get into the royal capital. It's probably like, I certainly don't think that I'm the only person who's ever discovered that, obviously, but that it's not like the traditional route to get into Leyendell. So I thought that was really kind of cool and interesting as well. And so just all of these sort of like really like epic moments that I experienced doing this playthrough. And so I guess maybe I should have said a little bit earlier, if you haven't played through the game already, then I should have done a spoiler warning for sure, I guess. I guess it's probably too late for that now. Hopefully anybody who's watching this video is like a fan of invasions, and so they're not necessarily here to talk about story and lore and stuff like that. So hopefully I'm not spoiling anything for anyone. Editor Kubz will probably put a little thing on the screen that says like, we're going to get into some spoiler content about the story, so if you don't want to experience that, then click off the video. That's probably what I'll end up doing. Hopefully I remember to do that. And yeah, so just kind of one of those, again, one of those cool and interesting and incredible moments that I had throughout my first playthrough. So then I get to Leyendell, and I take on, Morgott at the Erd Tree, and then it's like, okay, hey, well, you can't actually get in the Erd Tree. There's someplace else that you've got to go. And so now it's like, what? It's like I've already spent, probably close to 100 hours at that point. I've spent almost 100 hours exploring this world, and you're telling me that there's another new area that I haven't even gone to yet, and I'm gonna go to the mountaintops of the giants, and then you get there, and one of the first things that you're greeted by is this guy who looks super familiar, but he's telling you that he's somebody else. And then there's these, oh my goodness, don't get me started on the birds out here in the Giants mountaintops. The birds are like absolutely lethal. So you're out here in the mountaintop of the Giants in this totally different area and this new terrain, and then you go and you face off against the fire giant, and I'm thinking, okay, so like this has got to be it. We're gonna burn the Erd Tree, and that's gonna be that. And then again, you're sent off to Farum Azula, and it's like, oh my goodness, how many more places am I gonna get warped away to? Like, this is so cool. And just like the adventure just kept going. It's like this truly epic quest that you're on. Right there, I'm probably going to get reported for wall hacks if you were paying attention to what happened in the background. I just shot that guy right through the wall. Just perfectly placed shot. Took him out. That was awesome. That felt super cool. Some of these invasions are a little bit more drawn out, and I haven't really been commenting or talking about most of them as I've been rambling. But there was like a couple of really fun and good invasions that I had this evening where I was kind of just like tagging along with the party. You might have seen that one. I was down in the Siofra River probably, and they're just running around. They're trying to light the torches so that they can take on the boss down there. And I was just kind of tagging along and running around and seeing, you know, what these two are doing. And then it was like, okay, now is a good opportunity. I'm going to take out this phantom, and then I'm going to have a fight with the host. And the host actually almost got me. It got really close there. It was like he definitely almost had me. And I told myself I wasn't going to heal. So it's like, if the host kills me, then he kills me. And if I win, then I win, you know. I like to try to do that sometimes just to kind of challenge myself and push myself a little bit. And so that was really kind of cool to have that sort of engagement. This one's going to be kind of like a long, drawn-out fight between me and this what seems like an overleveled phantom and then their host. And it's like I'm trying not to beat up on the host because I want to kill the phantom first. So you'll see I keep getting the phantom down to low health, but I can't seem to finish him off because his host is always like right there to kind of save him in the nick of time. And yeah, just some good quality invasions that I was having. So hopefully you're enjoying the clips that are in the background as I'm kind of rambling. And if you're still here halfway through the video, like, thank you so much. I really appreciate your viewership and just you in general. And yeah, so we're just gonna kind of keep rambling, and hopefully you're enjoying this as much as I am enjoying recording this and had enjoyed these invasions. Yeah, so then you get sent to Farum Azula, and then again I face off against Malekith, and Malekith is like this big kind of wolf dog person as well, and it's like again even further reinforcing this sort of crazy theory that I've been building in my mind, that the people of the lands between and that the animals are like kind of like commingling somehow. And so that was just kind of like crazy and interesting. And oh, there's a little bit of lore about Vike, and how Vike and the dragons were like friends. And there was is it Lanciax maybe? I think it's Lanciax. It's like in his lore it says that like like Lanciax loved Vike the most or something like that. So like thinking that like the humans and the dragons can be like friends with each other, that was like a really cool element. So just so much like cool stuff happening throughout the game that just like made me like really just kind of fall in love with this whole setting and the lore and the vibe that they're going for. Just such a cool concept that they were building. And I think that George R.R. Martin probably had a lot to do with like the characters and kind of like the interconnectedness of the characters, like the, you know, who's allied with who, and the whole backstory between like Marika and Radagon being married to Renala but then leaving to marry Marika and things like that. Like that definitely seems like, you know, George R.R. Martin vibes for sure. But then like some of like the character design and like the just like the monsters and the beasts and the different creatures. It's like that's totally like some like Miyazaki stuff. And so that's really cool too, to kind of see like this blend of things where it's like, okay, like that makes sense, but this guy's also going to be this. And so I really just like, there's just so much character throughout this game that I think I'm sure that it's been appreciated by the community in many ways. But for somebody who focuses a lot more on invasions in the content that I make, it's nice to be able to kind of like reminisce and appreciate, you know, some of the finer like story aspects that this game really nailed. And so again, it's like even though invasions aren't perfect all the time, it's like I love playing this game just because I like, there's so much that I have come to appreciate and enjoy about the game, and the dedication and the love that was poured into making this game, that it's like I can't justify sitting here and like complaining about it constantly or being upset about things too often, because like I have had, when it comes to especially like considering the amount of money that I paid for this game and the amount of time and the amount of enjoyment and the content that I've gotten from like the $64 after tax that I spent on this game, it's like well worth every penny that I spent. And like, again, just kind of one of those things that I think about from time to time, where it's like there are some games nowadays that are coming out and it's like they want to charge you $70 for the game, and then they want to put like downloadable content and season passes and purchasable cosmetics and stuff like that. And it's like, man, I don't see what, like, where's the value in something like that? It seems so like driven towards the company making money rather than like giving an awesome experience to the consumer. And so again, it's just like one of those things that's like, yeah, like From Software is always going to be, in my mind, well worth the money spent for the game. I'm looking forward to Armored Core when it comes out. I've never played an Armored Core game before, but like that's something that I'm definitely looking forward to. And sometimes like on my channel, I like to, especially when I was first starting on YouTube, it's like how can I give something to the audience that's watching? And so I would make videos about free-to-play games. So like whether it's a new game that's just come out like and it's just like free to play to everybody, or if it's a specific game that's come out and it's free to play on PlayStation Plus for like the month or something like that. I like to make videos to kind of spotlight those games, because I'm somebody who doesn't have a lot in my budget to go towards my gaming habit. And so I play those free to play games, and like those games, even though at the end of the day they are looking to, you know, make some money off of the people who play the games through the cosmetics and through the, you know, in-game store and stuff like that, they're still offering the game for free. And that is like, that's a really great way for me to be able to continue to enjoy my hobby of gaming and to try different things and try new games and just overall have a good time with the time that I do spend, you know, playing video games. And so I like to kind of put a spotlight on those games. And so with that in mind, it's like I know that I probably don't have a whole lot in my budget to go out and buy, you know, every release that comes out. I'm still playing on a PlayStation 4. I do have a PlayStation 4 Pro, but that like I would love to be able to upgrade to a PlayStation 5. Part of like what I was thinking about with this video is that it like, oh, this could be like, if I made this kind of like a regular thing, maybe every couple of weeks on my channel, I did like a Sunday night chill invasion session and kind of like a longer form content where I can just kind of talk about things that aren't maybe too specific to the gameplay clips that are happening in the background, but just more so like ramble and talk and kind of in a big way hopefully connect with some of my community here. By the way, thank you if you've subscribed to the channel. I should have probably said this earlier in the video rather than almost 40 minutes in, but really appreciate all the new subscribers. I think probably like 2 months ago, I had like 24 subscribers. I'm now almost at 50. I think at the time of recording this, I've got 49 subscribers. So if you're still here and you've been enjoying this video and you want to be number 50, I would absolutely love that. And so like 50 is my first milestone that I'm going to get to. Once we get to 50, we're going to start looking forward to getting 100 and just continuing to slowly grow this small community of people who enjoy this sort of content. I don't think that this is going to be like my career or anything like that. You know, I've spent some time getting myself to a place where I can hopefully make a difference in other ways outside of gaming, which I'm really excited and looking forward to. But to also have this as like a hobby and something that I can do for fun, but can also kind of give back to the community that I love at the same time is like really awesome and fulfilling. So again, thanks so much if you're a new subscriber or if you're thinking about it, if you're on the fence, it's totally free, but no pressure. You know, if some people are really, you know, those subscriptions they're precious, you know, I understand that. So, but yeah, so thank you. I don't know where I was at before I said that. Probably just kind of rambling. I'm maybe talking about free games and about a PlayStation 5, and I was going to talk about streaming. So that was the thing. So a big part of why I've never considered doing like a live stream is because my PlayStation 4 sounds like a jet plane getting ready to take off whenever I'm playing a game. And so I get really kind of self-conscious about the audio quality when my PlayStation 4 is just roaring in the background. And I've gotten a new mic like within the last year. I think around like Christmas time, a friend of mine gifted me a new microphone to record with. And so I feel a lot better about the audio quality on this channel. But I just fear that if I was trying to record while the PlayStation is running in the background, that it wouldn't sound very great, and that wouldn't necessarily be like something that people would enjoy listening to. So if I'm able to upgrade to a PlayStation 5 sometime soon in the next few months or so, then maybe I'll consider like doing a live stream here or there and seeing how that goes for the channel and how that feels. But at the same time, it was like this kind of like longer form content where I could maybe, you know, spend 45 minutes to an hour just kind of sitting, you know, chatting and maybe going over some different talking points or just kind of rambling or whatever it might be, would be kind of like similar to like, hey, come join the live stream, you know what I mean? And so that I thought that would be kind of fun and cool to try out. And so we'll see how it goes. This video might get, you know, 4 views, and those 4 views might only stay for a minute and a half to 2 minutes and then click off the video and go watch something else. But it could also be that like people are looking for this sort of content and like they want to see longer form content and they want to hear, you know, different opinions from creators in the community and whatever else it might be. In the background right now, I'm seeing on my screen that we're in an invasion and we've made friends with these two. And I actually messaged the host after, I messaged both of these guys, but I messaged the host after the invasion. And I said, you know, thank you so much for that fun and awesome experience. And they let me know that this was their first playthrough. And so it was like, awesome, dude. I'm so glad that I was able to like, it just be like the smallest part of your first playthrough was getting to meet Mound Maker Urza down here in the sewers and like become friendly with you guys. And the sewers, like this was one of the areas in my playthrough that like just really, oh man, it definitely stumped me quite a bit. Like navigating through this area, trying to figure out where you're supposed to go. I probably spent a good hour and a half down here. So I know how it can be, you know, in that first playthrough. So it was really cool to kind of like not so much let these guys get through the sewers, right, but to not deter them in a negative way and say like, okay, I'm just here to stop your progress, you know, even though that's what I usually do as an invader. it was still cool to have this this moment with these two. And so here I think I'm like, oh hey, I think we're supposed to go this way, you guys. I think you're going the wrong way. So try to get their attention. But yeah, so like these sorts of experiences, it's again, I'm invading your world, but I'm doing so with a like a mindset or a perspective that's like, I'm not necessarily here to just rush in and fight you guys. I want to kind of give you the option and see what you're going to make of this encounter. Am I a bad guy? Am I a friend? I'm certainly not able to help you take out the mobs and the PvE that's in the area, but I can kind of like, you know, sit back and watch. So here, you know, they're going to encounter big dude at the ladder, and so it's like, all right, I know that they're getting close to opening up their shortcut, and you know, they've earned it so far, especially when they were down in the dark area of this dungeon where the Revenant spawns. Oh my goodness, man, that place, that's absolutely terrified me in my first playthrough. I was like, get me out of here as soon as possible. But you know, they were brave. They took on that enemy. Oh, look at this, 2 of them now have jumped down here. So it's like, if they don't make it, then you know, that's it's unfortunate for them, but it's part of the experience. And so I try to do what I can. It's like, I'm gonna block these guys so you can heal up. you know so yeah, so just kind of having fun with it. And again, this might not be everybody's cup of tea. You might be like, this dude, what a soft invader, like this is so silly. But yeah, you know, it's all just part of enjoying the game and the experience, and just kind of appreciating the invasion mechanic for what it offers us. And yeah, I really enjoyed this invasion with these 2 folks. So that was pretty cool. There was something that I was thinking about that I wanted to touch on and talk about, and I think that it's kind of escaped me. So we'll see if it comes to mind briefly here. If not, I'll probably just kind of find something else to ramble on about. But yeah, so he gets to open the door, and then I'm gonna kind of point to the, hey, go open that one too, man. You got to make sure that you go that way and get that thing open. And these 2 are probably on comms together, so they're probably talking. And so his buddy is probably like, hey, don't forget to open the door over here so we can unlock the shortcut. And it's like, yeah, like awesome. You guys are awesome. That's super cool. You know, just in general, this community, just the Souls-like community, in a big way, it's the Elden Ring community, but it's also the folks who have been here for, you know, the previous games, for Dark Souls 3, and for Bloodborne, and Dark Souls 2, and Dark Souls 1. All of these gamers who have really kind of made this community into what it is. It's been such an awesome thing to just like be a very small part of it in my own way. If you're somebody who likes to make content, like make content and have fun doing it, because like there are so many people playing this game and so many people watching these videos on YouTube that like if you love what you're doing and you're putting out fun and entertaining content for people, then I'm sure that they're going to come to your channel, and I'm sure that they're going to watch it. And some of them, they're going to enjoy it enough to subscribe and to like your videos and to comment on your videos. And that's like the biggest way that you can kind of become a part of this community, is to just get involved and watch other videos, like those videos, and support those content creators, and leave comments, and just kind of become a part of things here. I want to make a shout out to the Dashing Saint. If you're here watching this video at this minute mark somehow, and you hear this personal shout out to you, brother, thank you. There's a very small % chance that you're gonna hear this shout out, but if you do, I think you're awesome, and I genuinely appreciate you and the support that you've given to this channel. The Dashing Saint is somebody who's been around in the community for a while now, and they've also been involved in kind of organizing some community events. And the people that help organize these community events, like, just They're so fantastic. It's such a wonderful thing when the community can come together for something that is like just about such a good and positive cause. We did the Elden Ring invades for the children last summer, and that was incredible. It was basically a ton of content creators who were playing through the game, and they were using the Taunter's Tongue, and they were summoning in phantoms, and every time that a host died, there was a contribution made to charity, and every time that a phantom died, there was a contribution made to charity, and every time that the hosts would kill a specific boss, like basically the rune-bearing bosses, then, and some other bosses as well, there was a contribution made to charity, and just a really amazing thing to have been a part of, and like really kind of like just made me feel good about enjoying the hobby and enjoying playing Elden Ring. And so that was such a cool thing to be a part of. And then this year, I've probably mentioned it before in my videos, but we've had the 1 year anniversary event where all of these Elden Ring covenants were made, player-made covenants were designed, and everybody was encouraged to make a character that was unique and that fit into this covenant. And then we all went into the arena, and there was like a whole competition, and again, money was being raised for charity. So just like such a cool thing that these events can be put together, and that we can really make some positive impacts by playing video games. I mean, it's so crazy to me, but it's so awesome at the same time. And so I know that Dashing Saint has been involved in setting up those events, and Dashing Saint does some streaming, and they've also got a channel here on YouTube. So again, if you're looking for just a content creator to check out and to enjoy some of their content, I would highly recommend going over there and checking out their channel and showing them some support. And I know that Dashing's the kind of person that's like, hey, like I'm not doing this to make a living, as far as I know. It's really doing it as like a passionate hobby. And so like instead of like making a donation or contribution to his channel, he's the kind of person that'll say like, hey, like save your money or donate it here or whatever it might be. And so I really love that, and I just like couldn't be any happier to be able to support a fellow content creator in that sort of way. But just the support that I've gotten from them as a content creator who recognizes that like small channels need support too, and it's like we all kind of start somewhere. I am definitely a very small channel by comparison to some of the other content creators that are out there, but Dashing has watched a number of my videos and has left some really wonderful comments and has just been really encouraging. So shout out to you, man. I just wish you the best in everything that you do. I'm sure that you yourself, the viewer, the gamer who's watching right now, you probably have some favorite content creators. Click the thumbs up button on those videos when you like them, and leave comments, even if it's just something simple like keep going gamer, loved your content, whatever it might be. That's the best way that you can support content creators in their their efforts here on YouTube. It's all about the algorithm. It's about YouTube seeing that, hey, this video has come out and people are responding to it, people are engaging with it, and that's what's going to really kind of help some of these content creators grow. So especially if you're a fan of a smaller channel and you're like, hey, this person's only got 200 subscribers, but they make really great content. Like I'm sure that they appreciate your comments and when you leave a like on their channel and all of that sort of stuff, because that's what's really going to help them, find success on YouTube, regardless of what their end goal is of making the content. It'll just get more eyes on their channel, and that I'm sure they would always appreciate. So that's something to think about too, is like, you're not just a viewer, you're not just somebody who's watching the video, but you can become a part of this community. And it's a really welcoming and engaging community to be a part of, especially the invasion side of things. Like, there are a number of different discords that you could be a part of as an invader, And I would say 90% of what I've learned about invading, probably not 90%, maybe 90% is a little bit high, maybe 60% of what I've learned about invading came from watching other people and their invasions, you know? Like, there's a big part of it that comes from you going out there and invading yourself, but just like sitting down and watching some really good invaders and the different things that they do, different techniques that they try, or just in general, like the different kind of like approaches that they take to things, like it's so huge. And so if you're trying to get into invading yourself and you're not really sure where to start, like, you can never go wrong by watching some invasion videos and seeing what other people do and then trying to do that, because if they've had success with it, chances are they're not some sort of like, you know, god tier gamer. They're probably, you know, above average. Some of them are even exceptional when it comes to like their skill, but you know, a big part of it is just that they've been doing it for a long time. And so, like, again, if you've been invading for a few months, like, don't beat yourself up because you don't win as many invasions as you'd like to. You know, it's all about like continuing to do it, and if you enjoy it, then like the experience that you're going to get over time and the practice that you're going to get is going to just continue to lead to you being a better invader and being more efficient and proficient in your invasions. And that, like, once you get past a certain point where it's like, all right, I know that I can win most of these invasions if I'm smart about it, if I use my wits, whatever it might be, then you're going to kind of find that confidence that you need to say, like, all right, I am an invader, and I'm going to go out here and I'm going to invade, and I'm going to enjoy doing it, and I'm going to have a good time regardless of the outcome or whatever it might be. So again, you know, if you love something, find a way to do it, because that's super important. I think that I want to kind of wrap up this video by echoing the beginning of the video, and just say again that existing can be difficult sometimes, but I'm glad that you exist, and I hope that you continue to, even when things get tough, or when, you know, you get stuck on a boss in your real life. You know, there's just a boss that's just, you've been trying to overcome this obstacle for a while. I don't mean like a literal boss like at work or something like that. I mean kind of like more of like a metaphorical boss. But we have these, you know, we get faced with these obstacles sometimes, and it could be easy to feel like giving up is the best option. But you just got to stick with it, try something new, or maybe fall back on an old, you know, tactic that has worked for you in the past. Whatever it might be, just keep going, gamer, because you matter. Did you see that guy? he couldn't help himself. He just had to press that L2 button again, and he jumped right into the hole. I didn't expect to win that invasion, but that was a fun end to it. Oh, this was the moment that I realized that the whole Sunday night invasions that I was doing, my character was named the Ninja Turtle rather than being named Mound Maker Urza, because I had changed it over for a character concept I was working on and a video I was doing. So that was like a forehead smack moment for sure. But thank you so much if you're still here. I really appreciate you. I have been and always will be Kubz. Peace and love, gamers.